Lazy derivative remixes. Star Trek ruthlessly points out the problem with Marvel and other multiverse franchises, including Star Trek. In its fifth and final season on Paramount+, Star Trek Lower Decks has taken on the multiverse, highlighting a problem with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and other franchises' shared canons. Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 finds the USS Cerritos investigating a series of quantum fissures throughout the galaxy that open up to alternate universes. As Starfleet cannot close these rifts fast enough, ships from alternate realities keep finding their way into the Prime Universe. This storyline has allowed Lower Decks to incorporate characters from all over the Star Trek timeline in fun and fascinating ways. Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5, Episode 9, Fisher Quest, reveals that Section 31 has tasked Captain William Boimler, Jack Quaid, to lead a crew of interdimensional castaways in search of the cause of the quantum fissures. As they close yet another rift aboard the Defiant-class starship Anaximander, Captain Boimler expresses his frustration with the multiverse, saying that it's just lazy derivative remixes. Boimler wants to get back to exploring strange new worlds, rather than encountering the same characters over and over again. Boimler's hatred of the multiverse points out the biggest problem with these kinds of stories. Star Trek Lower Decks point out the problem with Marvel's multiverse. One of the most well-known examples of the multiverse in pop culture today is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. While shows like Loki and films like Deadpool and Wolverine have illustrated how fun the multiverse can be, stories involving numerous alternate realities can also have their drawbacks. Nostalgia for classic characters can sustain stories for a while, but at some point, viewers will likely want new stories to sink their teeth into. But rather than embracing new stories, like Eternals for example, Marvel has been trying to replicate the success of the Avengers saga. As Star Trek Lower Decks points out, there are only so many stories to be told about the same characters. Boimler's complaint about lazy derivative remixes feels like a critique that has been lobbed not only at the MCU, but at many big-budget sequels and remakes. While it can be incredibly fun to see beloved characters return, that does not diminish the desire for new and unique stories. Star Trek Lower Decks saved its multiverse story for its final season, after it had spent the previous 4 seasons developing its own unique characters. After being captured by feral Quopians, Captain Boimler and his crew discover that an alternate universe, Lily Sloan, Alfred Woodard, has inadvertently been causing the rifts in spacetime. In this variant Sloan's universe, she and Zephram Cochrane, James Cromwell, built a quantum reality drive that allows them to explore the multiverse. While Boimler has grown tired of the multiverse and its repetitiveness, Sloan points out that visiting different realities has allowed her to learn more about humanity and their limitless potential. As Captain Sloan explains that she has seen humans who've built rings around the sun and others whose ships are the size of continents, even Boimler begins to understand her wonder. From Sloan's perspective, the multiverse offers a wider look at what humans are capable of and inspires her and her crew to live up to their full potential. As Star Trek Lower Decks illustrates, the multiverse does not have to be a tool used only for nostalgic cameos or winks at the audience. It can also be used to explore what it means to be human, or alien as the case may be. In the realm of modern media, the multiverse has become the go-to tool for many major franchises, enabling them to rewrite stories, revisit old characters, and expand their narrative horizons. Marvel, DC, and even Star Trek have all embraced the concept of multiverses with open arms. At first glance, this seems like a win-win, a creative playground that allows for endless storytelling opportunities. But there's a darker side to this trend, and Star Trek, perhaps unknowingly, has begun to call out this issue in its own unique way, especially with its more recent outings like Star Trek Picard and Star Trek Discovery. The problem with the multiverse concept across franchises like Marvel and Star Trek is that it too often leads to what could be called lazy derivative remixes of beloved characters and stories. Rather than using the multiverse as a space for genuine innovation or bold storytelling, franchises have frequently resorted to rehashing old ideas with only superficial twists. New universes become convenient excuses to recycle characters, plots, and even entire arcs, offering little in the way of actual creative risk. Star Trek has, in some ways, become a surprising mouthpiece for this critique, reflecting on the dangers of playing too fast and loose with the multiverse. Multiverse fatigue. When anything is possible, nothing matters in Star Trek. Particularly in its recent series and films, we've seen an increase in alternate timelines, mirror universes, and reality-bending plots. The Kelvin timeline in the rebooted Star Trek films is one such example. At first, it was praised for breathing new life into a beloved franchise, but over time, cracks began to show. What began as a bold move to reset continuity devolved into a somewhat shallow endeavor to recycle nostalgia without committing to long-term consequences. The same Kirk, Spock, and Uhura exist in new configurations, but the emotional weight that the original series had painstakingly developed across decades is diminished. The rebooted versions felt like shadows of their original selves. This is where Star Trek highlights a critical flaw in multiverse storytelling. When anything can happen, nothing has real stakes. Star Trek has, in many ways, laid the groundwork for multiverse storytelling with its long-standing fascination with time travel, alternate realities, and mirror universes. But it always handled these with a careful balance. The classic Star Trek episodes featuring time travel or alternate timelines often had clear consequences for the characters and their relationships. Whether it was Kirk's decision to let Edith Keeler die in The City on the Edge of Forever, or the ethical dilemmas faced by Captain Picard in Star Trek: The Next Generation, the stakes felt tangible. These choices mattered because they were singular, not diluted by the promise of endless do-overs in parallel universes. But now, in the age of the multiverse, that balance is being eroded. Both in Star Trek and beyond, the multiverse has become a storytelling crutch, a way to reset the game board whenever things get too complicated. Marvel is a prime example of this. After a decade of carefully constructed character development leading to Avengers: Endgame, the MCU dove headfirst into multiverse territory with shows like Loki and What If, and of course with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and Spider-Man: No Way Home. On paper, these projects should have opened up exciting new storytelling avenues. But instead, they've largely served as exercises in fan service, bringing back beloved characters from other universes for the sake of nostalgia rather than crafting meaningful new narratives. Star Trek's self-awareness. What sets Star Trek apart is that it seems more self-aware of this trap. In Star Trek, Picard Season 2, for example, we see a version of Jean-Luc Picard grappling with his personal demons and regrets. The use of time travel and alternate realities in this context serves not merely as an opportunity to retell old stories, but as a way to deeply interrogate the character's psychology. While Picard is not immune to the pitfalls of derivative remixing, especially when bringing back classic characters like Q or rehashing Borg-related threats, it often tries to ground its multiverse shenanigans in genuine emotional stakes. This is where Star Trek still has a chance to redeem itself from the multiverse trap, by continuing to focus on character-driven stories, even when playing with alternate timelines. In contrast, Marvel, with its sprawling multiverse, seems less interested in character growth and more in keeping the machine of fan engagement running. With the sheer volume of content being produced across films and Disney Plus series, it's becoming harder for Marvel to maintain the emotional stakes that made its earlier films so impactful. Characters die, but they are resurrected in another universe. Villains from one timeline are reformed in another. Nothing is ever final, and as a